Hello, my name is Paul Stewart and I'm currently in Melbourne Airport where I'm about to fly to Sydney. Now, usually I would do this in a Qantas 737, although today I've managed to get on board a Jetstar 787, which is doing their short domestic hop from Melbourne to Sydney and then travelling on to somewhere international. I'm not sure where it is, Bali or Hawaii or somewhere. So coming up is Jetstar economy class in a 787 Dreamliner.
The 59-minute journey on this clown-faced aircraft, and yes, it is slightly unnerving seeing an unpainted panels from a scrapyard on your aeroplane, began in the departure hall where quite a few people had already lined up prior to check-in opening 3 hours before the flight. After that, it was through the rather festive customs. Because we were on a domestic flight, although from the international terminal, we weren't able to use the E-gate, so it was a fairly lengthy process. But as always, for this little aviation nerd, the view made up for it on the other side. Here's a Qantas Airbus A380, or as it's affectionately called by me, the dugong of the skies. Now, one of the perks of being a Qantas Platinum is that I was allowed into the first class lounge, even though I wasn't flying with Qantas or a oneworld airline. The view in here is pretty cool, and I've uploaded a separate tour through this very impressive lounge in another video. Now let's get back to Jetstar, and here's our aircraft VH-VKE, which is a 787-8 and was assembled in 2014. Now this shot really highlights how big the General Electric engines are that power this aircraft, or Tyrion Lannister is moonlighting for Jetstar. Our flight was called and we headed on board. Looking right is the main cabin, and on the left is a much smaller economy cabin just behind business, and this is where you should sit, and I'll explain why in a sec. Here's my seat 11J, which was actually a mistake as I had intended to book 10J. All of the seats in this forward mini cabin cost $13 extra, although row 10 has more legroom, as you can see in these comparison shots. And because it's a bulkhead seat, there's no one reclining into you. Let's have a quick squiz at my seat in more detail. In front of you is a TV touchscreen, and I'll mention that in more detail later. Underneath that is a USB port and an audio plug, and travelling further south is the fold-out table. The airrest folds up, unlike the row in front of you, which has the TV screen integrated into it. And above you is thankfully an individual air vent. For reasons unknown to man and science, airlines seem to keep cabins far too hot, and I always appreciate having a steady stream of air blowing into my head. Then, of course, the most important feature of this seat is a decent view of the wing and engine, which is somewhat ruined by Boeing's electric window shades, which I'll rant about later. And underneath you are two power plugs, which you share between the three seats. Now back to the window shades. Instead of using a simple thin piece of plastic, Boeing have added a layer of magic goo between two pieces of glass, and then they electrocute it. When the electrical current is applied, it gets darker. Now I have a few issues with this, as I'll show you more after we take off. Now in direct sunlight, it still doesn't really block the sun's ginger burning rays. And then when you want to enjoy the amazing views at 40,000 feet, the crew can lock it in the dark setting, as they did in this flight. And of course, this whole process of darkening the windows takes minutes, or for us gingers, third-degree burns. Anyway, enough whinging, let's head to Sydney. And a shout out to Sony, whose autofocus stuffed up during the 15 seconds I actually wanted to capture the bits of the wing doing their dance in preparation for takeoff. In the background now is a Qantas 787, although this is the larger Dash 9 variant, which has just been added to their fleet. I'll include a link to my review of that aircraft in the video description below. A 787 scooted off to Singapore, while a Jetstar A321 arrived from Queensland, and then it was our turn. I'll stop talking and let you enjoy the takeoff footage. was a reasonably clear day, so we got a great view of Melbourne's CBD. And here's Tullamarine Airport, which we'd just taken off from a few moments ago. I caught this rather cool shot of an Air New Zealand aircraft just as the crew locked the windows into a semi-dark setting. This was frankly rather annoying as it draws the colours out of the footage. While I managed to partially salvage these wing views with computer trickery, it's not the same. Here's what it would look like without digital editing. Another thing I might mention is just common courtesy. As soon as the seatbelt sign went off, the passengers in front immediately reclined their seats, which seemed unnecessary for such a short flight. If you're new to flying, please be considerate of those behind you and keep your seat straight up during meal service and on short flights. If you really must recline, select a seat at the back of a cabin, like mine, so there's no one directly behind you. And just to add to it all, she proceeded to relax her hands just above my poor neighbour's TV screen. Now on the topic of TV screens, and since the view outside wasn't great, let's briefly look at the in-flight entertainment. The screen is decent quality and the touchscreen works fine. Although, being a low-cost carrier, you have to pay for everything. It would have cost me $8 to watch Mission Impossible, so I skipped that and went for something to eat. Much like British Airways and other low-cost carriers, you have to pay for the food, and here's a glossy magazine outlining the meal options. While I wasn't hungry, I thought I'd get into the Jetstar spirit and grab a beer, or actually a cider as I'm not manly enough to drink beer and need something sweet. The guy next to me was served this $8 little green cider, although for some reason I was completely ignored, even though I went to make eye contact. Once I realised they'd forgotten me, I hit the call bell, only to have it ignored for 10 minutes. After that, I cancelled the call and pressed it again, but after another 5 minutes, they announced our descent into Sydney would begin, so I cancelled it. While forgetting me is fine, and that happens every now and then when I fly, I was surprised by the number of crew that walked past when my call light was illuminated. Alas, I suppose I saved $8. So to summarise, you should catch the domestic Jetstar 787 flights if you're an av geek and want to fly in the 787, which otherwise is a great aircraft. And that's actually how I first flew in one. Or if you're Qantas Platinum and want to spend 3 hours dining in the first class lounge. Otherwise, it's probably not worth the fuss of going through customs, and catching the usual A320 from the domestic terminal is quicker. Having said that, if you are flying the 787 internationally, I'd suggest you pay a little extra and get those seats up front in this mini cabin and book row 10. It'll be quieter with less other passengers, and sitting just in front of the wings always provides a smoother ride. And finally, be considerate of other passengers. You probably don't need to recline on a 59-minute flight. Now I don't know about you, but these views are a perfect antidote to my grumpy mood, even if you're looking through these ridiculous half-tinted stupid windows. The issues I've mentioned before seem far less significant once you consider the amazing engineering that's gone into this aircraft. Here I am hurtling through the air at 1,000 kilometers an hour in a carbon fibre and plastic Tupperware container. Even with a few little hiccups, it was still faster than driving. While charging money for everything seems tight, I guess that's capitalism, and the whole flight was just over $100 anyway. Just bring your own iPad with entertainment and snacks, although be careful with the liquids and weigh your carry-on luggage, as Jetstar do police it like a hawk. A shout out to my home city of Wollongong, which you can see now as we flew over the coast in preparation to land into Sydney. On the topic of my newfound positivity, and as a belated Happy New Year's gift, I'm giving away a medium-sized Qantas business pyjamas to a subscriber. Simply reply below with Jetstar, yay star, in brackets, and yes, that's now a patented term, and 30 days after this video is published, I'll randomly select a winner. Full details are in the video description below. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe and click the thumbs up button. Check out my channel for other aviation videos, including Jetstar Business Class in this very aircraft, and follow me on Instagram and Facebook. Thanks again for watching. See you another time.